Are you ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 192. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, it has been a week. It feels like I've been gone forever, but really it's not. How are you? What is going on? What's happening?
Oh, man, I'm good. My week was not as eventful as yours was, or interesting. Just kind of another week in the COVID paradise, you know, just doing what we do on a daily. I did, let's see, what did we do this week? I played Ghost of Tsushima quite a bit.
Ooh, how are you liking it?
I love it. It's just right up my alley. Just kind of, it's gotten mostly positive reviews, but there's some that think that it kind of is it follows all the open world tropes, which I don't mind. I enjoy it. It's a samurai game.
You like an open world game.
I like open world games, action adventure, let me do whatever I want and get totally distracted by side quests or climbing to the tallest mountain. Like, I'm into that. So this for me, and it was a total break from what I was just playing with The Last of Us 2, which is like, there is only one thing to do, and that is get to the next thing. There's no other exploration. It's very linear. So it's kind of fun to be able to just run around and be a cool samurai. So That's been a lot of fun. I've assembled quite a bit of IKEA stuff this week, so that's not been as fun.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, I guess.
New furniture is always fun.
So we're kind of getting our patio and our outdoor stuff figured out. Today was cool. I mean, it was kind of a long trip, but I splurged and I picked up a Green Mountain Grill pellet smoker.
Nice.
And we had to drive out to New Braunfels to get it because they're so daggum popular. You can't find them anywhere. And they are only sold by local dealers, so you have to call around and see if people have any. And I got lucky, and I found just the one I was looking for. So I had to drive about 40 minutes, picked it up this afternoon, and hauled it back, set it up. And now it's ready to go. So I'm pretty pumped about it. My brother got one, and he showed me the brisket that he smoked, and I went, now that looks like a Texas brisket. So I'm pretty excited about giving it a try, and I think I'm going to try something this weekend. My birthday's on Saturday, and I was like, well, we'll usually go out to eat on my birthday, but I think for my birthday, I'm going to want to smoke a brisket if I can't get a hold of one.
I'll tell you, Costco.
Yeah.
They've got good briskets for that, that sort of thing.
Right. Well, I don't have Costco here.
That's too bad.
But I have Sam's Club, and I'm going to see what they've got. And this is different. We're in Texas. H-E-B carries prime cut brisket.
Oh, okay.
So we live in a whole different world over here in Texas. We got all the meats, sense. All the cuts, pretty much whatever you want in every store. So that was my big event today, and just kind of outside of that, we've been kind of rolled back here in Texas on things we can and can't do. due to the whole uptick recently. It's coming back down, thank goodness. So we've mostly just been at home, hanging out with the kids, playing games, and not a whole lot extra fun to report this week, other than got a smoker, some IKEA, Ghost of Tsushima, and just kind of general hanging out, watching movies and stuff.
That still sounds like a fairly decent.
Oh, it was great.
Week. Yeah.
It was great.
It sounds really good.
Can't complain.
Did I talk about my new chair?
Yes.
Last week?
You did.
All right. Then I won't talk about my new chair, except to say that my hips do not hurt.
Yay.
I love this new chair.
Awesome.
I gotta say, I love it. I am still playing The Last of Us Part 2, even though I've beaten the game.
Right.
I am probably maybe an hour's worth away from getting the platinum.
Nice.
So I've been kind of working on that some. I did, at the very tail end of last week before we left on vacation, I finished Community. So I finished my Community watch through, and last night, Breed and I, we were home, and we're like, let's watch something, and we don't have a show we're watching together, and she's like, let's watch a movie, and so she wanted to watch Spaceballs because she's never seen Spaceballs. And we watched maybe the first half, maybe the first hour-ish of Spaceballs. I wasn't laughing as much as I remembered laughing in the past. It's still pretty quotable, but maybe I was just tired, and that could just be. But I was like, maybe my humor has adjusted some as I've gotten a little older, because I was just like, some of the jokes felt flat, and I don't know. I was really, really tired, so it could just be that too.
Right. Okay.
But so I'm in need of a new show, and I was going to ask you a question, but you've got to rein in your enthusiasm a little bit. But my question is, where can I go find AP Bio?
Peacock for free.
Okay.
You can
anywhere else?
No.
Dang it! I don't want to have to use their I just don't want to use extra services that I'm,
It's
not
free.
accustomed to using.
You're paying for freaking CBS All Access. This is just a free little something. Yeah, you can watch it there.
I may give that a try.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 seasons, 13 episodes each season. You could cruise through it in a week if you really wanted to.
Right.
It's it may not be your thing. It wasn't a lot of people's things. I'll tell you that. Almost nobody was watching that show. Right. Let's be honest. But I loved it.
I figure I'll give it a shot. We started trying watching that Space Force show on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
And I think we watched 2 episodes and just.
It was okay, but I'm not like. We also got 2 episodes in, and I laughed a few times, but I wasn't itching to continue watching.
Right. Yeah, me too. The big thing that happened this week. Wednesday afternoon, after I was done with work, I took the family and we went up to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Which is like a 4.5-hour drive from where we live. And we stayed in West Yellowstone, which is in Montana. Almost the entire park, the national park, is in Wyoming. But just for the little kind of, eastern or western and northern borders are in Montana. And so we stayed in West Yellowstone, and then we went into the park 3 days and spent 3 full days there. And the boys, we were excited. We sold them on this junior ranger program, and we had to do a whole bunch of extra driving to get to this one spot that they were still handing out the packets because all the visitor centers were closed. So the first day we got there, we had to drive for an extra hour and a half inside the park because, it's not freeway speeds. It says 16 miles, but you're yeah, but I'm going to be doing 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour. And then we're also going to have to stop because bison are going to be in the road.
Right.
So it takes a little while.
Yeah.
we got the books. The boys were super excited. They got to learn about nature. They got to learn about all the cool things up in Yellowstone. They got to see a whole bunch of wildlife. We saw bison. We saw a pronghorn. We saw elk. We saw some chipmunks. We saw, geese and ravens and just a whole bunch of like little birds. We saw a bunch of stuff. We did not see a one of those sheeps with the big ram horns or whatever.
Okay.
That they've got up there. We didn't see that. We didn't see a bear. We didn't see any wolves, which was sad. I was hoping to see them kind of from afar. We saw a lot of bison, though. We saw a lot of bison. But the kids were excited. They had so much fun. They loved sleeping in the hotel we were in. They loved, playing around, and they wanted stuffed animals. So Jackson got a little kind of soft, squishy moose, and Charlie got a little bear. And then we got them little fleece blankets, one that had like wolves and bears on them and moose and elk and whatever.
Yeah.
Just kind of the accoutrements you kind of pick up on a vacation to Yellowstone. But I will say I was rather surprised that pretty much inside of the park, everyone was wearing masks, because you just go to Old Faithful, right? And that's like the big attraction, like the most people are there. But even when we were going and seeing funerals or, hot springs or mud pots somewhere, people were wearing them on the trails because they'd be coming within a couple feet of people. Yeah. So that was really encouraging to see. And then when we were in West Yellowstone, where we were staying in the hotel, since that is in Montana, Montana has a mask mandate for public spaces. So everywhere we went in the little, downtown area of West Yellowstone, everyone had masks on pretty much the entire time.
Right.
So that was really, really encouraging. It was a great time. We had a ton of fun. We're talking about maybe looking into renting an RV another time to take somewhere, because we like the idea of maybe even getting a trailer and doing some more camping. At least Britta's version of camping. She doesn't want to rough it in a tent on the ground. So I figure the next step is, if we ever want to consider becoming people that, own a trailer and go a couple, maybe twice a month, during the season,
right,
to, camp places and go out somewhere, we should probably rent like an RV or rent a trailer for a weekend somewhere, try it, see if we like it, that sort of thing. So
that's awesome. We when I grew up, probably from the age of I'll say 12 until I graduated, we had an RV, and we went all the time, everywhere. My dad would just pull us out of school and be like, "You're not going on Friday. We're going to the Grand Canyon," or we took it to Disney World and stayed at like the campgrounds at Disney World one time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we used and abused that thing. It was awesome. So it's a lot of fun for people like me and Britta, who enjoy the outdoors. We really do love it. All the aspects of camping, except I ain't going to sleep in a tent if I don't got to. And this is kind of the way around that.
So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's kind of a fun idea to play around with, but then it's got to be, okay, if we do decide to do this, like, what is it actually going to cost?
Yeah, it's pricey.
What do I need to tow it? All that kind of stuff. Like, do I, is my truck up to snuff for towing, or do I need a bigger truck?
Right.
So things we got to look at. There's no rush. I think right now trailers and RVs are super popular and very expensive, because it's one of the only true forms of vacationing you can do,
right,
that's easily accessible. Like, I'd say last summer, the idea of like, renting an RV or whatever is like, no, you could say, you could, but like for us, it would be like, well, let's look at Disneyland. We can drive down, or Disney World. We can hop on a flight, be there in, 4 or 5 hours, cross the country.
Sure.
Go, boom, we're done, whatever. now people aren't hopping on flights to go travel, and everyone's got different quarantine rules and how long you gotta stick around and all that. And so the idea of just saying like, hey, let's just hitch up the old trailer, get in the RV and drive to the middle of nowhere and camp for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Get us out of the house, let the kids run around. Like, that idea is very, very appealing in our current climate that we're in.
Yep.
So we shall see. We shall see. Other than that, we're happy to be home. I mean, it was a fun trip, and we had fun. The boys had fun, but it's always nice to be back home. I'm looking forward to get back to streaming this week after like the 2 weeks prior to the vacation just being really weird and not being able to stream a lot. I'm looking forward to streaming and kind of getting back at that. I got to figure out what's going to be my next game I'm going to be playing. Now that I'm about ready to wrap up The Last of Us 2, once I get the platinum for it, I'll probably move on. I won't go back to it for quite a while, I would imagine. So, yeah, time to start kind of looking. And I know a lot of people are talking about Ghosts of Tsushima and talking about how awesome it is. But I've already got a couple other open world games I need to either A, get back to, or B, start.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have any business buying another one.
Right.
But that's just me. Matt, what do you say? Should we kill some Bothans? Should we get to some Rebel Intelligence? Is there any way you want to kill the Bothans this week? Something special, something unique.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done this before, but I like to point laser pointers as they're driving by in their speeders, and so they can't see and blow up and crash into rocks.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Well, Matt, we have bloody rocks all over the place,
yes.
And we are now into Rebel Intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
What do you have for me?
All right, so the first thing I have, you remember an old thing back in the early 2000s for gamers? A little TV station called G4.
Oh, yeah.
So G4 recently posted a little teaser on their Twitter account that basically ends with the words, "We never stopped playing," and the year 2021. So this has set the subculture of video gaming ablaze, with people wondering, what does this mean? I think it's pretty clear. It means that it's going to be back in some form next year. What will they bring back? Will they bring back X-Play, Attack of the Show, what all the other kind of other niche little programs that they had? I don't know. However, if there's ever going to be a time to jump on, it's probably now.
Yeah.
Gaming's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more understood and accepted by the mainstream people. Yeah,
right?
esports,
I mean, like
right.
esports alone, like freaking, we've seen esports on ESPN.
Right. Yep. I mean, the Nintendo World Championship was on ABC. It's like we're getting to a point where these things they're exciting and they're interesting and people love it. So I'm excited for this. I could go for something on. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if it's going to be like a regular kind of channel. And by regular, I mean, what's regular channel now anyway?
Right.
Or if it'll be like a YouTube channel that you subscribe to that every week will be a new episode of the show. So I don't know. There's a couple different formats I think they could take with it. That would be really interesting. And I think that we're all kind of excited to tune in and see what they've got in store.
I have mixed feelings about this. In theory, I like the idea. I think there needs to be something that's a little more mainstream content for video games, because the video game industry is a massive industry. I mean, video game industry, usually does better than like the music industry and the movie industry put together.
Right.
As far as like, revenue and whatnot. But I also kind of go, yeah, how mainstream is this? I mean, if we're getting esports on ABC and ESPN, how is a former cable station going to come back and then compete? I mean, maybe if they've got something, I don't know, maybe if they've got something that's going to be consistent, or they signed some sort of exclusivity deal,
right?
Then that could be big. But I mean, if they're just going to try to like revamp old shows that burnt out years ago, I might wait and see what happens.
Right. I agree. Who can get involved? If they can get some of the bigger celebrity type names involved, I think you might see something, interesting, something fun. I mean, Conan's show about the Clueless Gamer is always kind of interesting to watch. I don't know. There's a lot of shows that I can think of that I would put on that would be interesting to me, but I don't know. We'll see. So we'll have to wait till 2021.
All right, Matt. I'm going to start off my Rebel Intelligence, and I'm going to say this before I even start this. I feel like all of mine are weird and not obscure, just like weird and wild, wacky. Nothing here should be taken super seriously. This is not an in-depth report of any kind, but you remember a little while ago, the Trump administration decided that they're going to form a fifth branch of the military called the Space Force.
Yeah.
And that we're going to have a Space Force, and, of course the jokes, started immediately, well, we're going to build some sort of, moon base alpha, and we're going to have, soldiers up on the moon guarding us from who knows what.
That's right.
But they originally debuted a logo for the Space Force that literally looks like a Star Trek logo. It looks like it belongs right from the United Federation of Planets. And of course, they immediately got hit from Paramount Viacom with a cease and desist, threatening of legal action. And so, surprisingly to no one, the Space Force has retooled its logo to, as they say, to have a sharper, cleaner look, and it has the new Space Force motto, Semper Supra, below it, which stands for always above. And I look at this and I go, okay, it's kind of interesting, and they give some details that, this little portion of it. Now, I'm going to say, the logo looks similar to part of the original logo.
Right.
But they're like, this represents the 4 joint armed forces that support this space mission, the Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marines. And this shows how we're dominant, and it stands for a rocket, and this stands for this, and this stands, and the star in the center stands for Polaris. It's going to symbolize core values of the Space Force mission. All of it sounds very generic military.
Sure.
This signifies defense, and this signifies our mission, and this signifies our value. Granted, okay, fine, sure. But here's the thing about this, Matt. It looks pretty cool, but if you flip it upside down, it's the Pontiac freaking logo.
Oh my gosh. I hadn't noticed that until you just said it.
Look at it.
Yeah.
If you flip it upside down, it's the Pontiac logo.
Yeah,
it
is.
I know what this seemed familiar. So they went from ripping off Star Trek to now ripping off Pontiac. Here's my question. Does the Space Force have its own law division? Because if not, they're going to need one. Guys, I love the idea that you're trying your darndest. But boy, you're just stumbling right out of the gate.
Yep.
And then again and again. So, good luck, Space Force, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you'll come across a logo that isn't a already existing trademarked logo.
Good luck with that.
We'll see.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. Well, here's something that's sad and ridiculous.
Okay.
Star Wars movies, Mulan, and Avatar have all been delayed. All of them. Mulan's been delayed like 3 times already. Now it's just off the docket.
Yep.
And then all future Avatar and Star Wars movies have been delayed a year. So now the Avatar 2 movie that was scheduled for like Christmas next year is now December 2022. And that means the Star Wars movie that had that slot in 2022 is now in 2023, and so on, every other year kind of a situation for Star Wars and Avatar. Actually, they're going to switch every year. So,
yeah.
I mean, disappointing. It is what it is.
Well,
it's
I'm disappointed that the Star Wars movies are delayed.
I was hoping they'd scrap, but just scrap Avatar.
Who's calling for more Avatar besides James Cameron?
Honestly, I think Disney's going to be like, oh, wow, no one actually cares about this. Maybe I'm wrong.
So here's the thing. And I know that some of the Super Friends are probably going to disagree with me. I think that when some sort of Avatar 2 eventually hits the theaters, whenever that is, if it does, I think that Disney's really quickly going to realize that people went in droves and flocks to go see Avatar because of the technical achievements of that time. And that unless they're going to pull some rabbit out of their hat with some amazing technology, if they're just using the same technology or technology that's currently available to them, to anyone else, and they're not pioneering something new, the story was shallow and weak. Why do we need 4 additional sequels? This is not the next Pirates of the Caribbean, although I understand they want it to be.
Right.
I think those. I have a bad feeling that that's gonna underperform, and then they're gonna pull the plug. They're not gonna want to make 3 additional ones after this one. I don't know. It just. Give me more Star Wars, sure. Give me something new, sure. But, like, let's...
Don't give me the little blue people. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of little blue people, or maybe little green people... Oh, Matt. This is the part of the podcast sometimes when I see these items for Rebel Intelligence that I just go, I need to talk about this because I think it's culturally relevant and it's pop culturally relevant.
Okay.
But I also kind of just cringe going, oh, man. The New York Times on Thursday, this last Thursday, published a story claiming that in all likelihood they believe that aliens have visited Earth. This is not the Inquirer. This is the New York Times. And they say that they believe that it's possible, and it could be very real, that the U.S. government's been conducting classified briefings in recent years amongst themselves about off-world vehicles. Now, if you were reading the New York Times, you wouldn't see this on page 1. They're not leading off with little green men from outer space because of, everything else that's going on with the current pandemic we're in, with all the political things going on in our country. It's an election year. This was on the 17th page. You had to dig down in. But what they do talk about is, if you remember, like earlier this year, maybe last year, there was some footage of a UFO that was released.
Right.
It kind of looked like a top flying in the air to me.
Yeah.
Well, apparently there was a subcontractor, an astrophysicist who was a subcontractor for the Pentagon back in 2007 that said that they were working on something and examining materials that they could not determine their origination, their source, and says that it was so complicated that we couldn't make it ourselves. And this subcontractor has gone on, he was subcontracting directly for the Pentagon. Now he's a defense contractor, and he said recently that they were working on stuff from off-world vehicles from Earth, and now the administration has been, declassifying some UFO sightings. And then former Senator Harry Reid, who's from Nevada, which, okay, this is all, little
Nevada.
Conspiracy theory, but Nevada, Area 51, right? He's from that state. He has been like a longtime champion of exploring the idea of UFOs. And he said that after looking into some of the things, he came to the conclusion that some of the reports about this materials and whatnot that were being looked into could exist, could be extraterrestrial. And he says he also believes that there's people in the private sector that could have potentially some of this material in their possession.
Interesting.
So Harry Reid even says he notes that there's the possibility of a retrieved spacecraft. I don't know if any of this is real or not. Gosh darn it, I hope not. Like, this is just like so everything we've seen in sci-fi movies about aliens for the last 50 years or more. But I mean, the New York Times reported, in 2017 about a UFO encounter, and now they're dropping something else here. Like, the administration's putting out some stuff. It just seems like there's all these like little things that have been put out there lately. Is it coincidence? I absolutely think it is. I am not a conspiracy guy when it comes to like the UFO stuff, okay?
Sure.
But I just find it very interesting and very funny that we have a former senator going on record, someone who was a subcontractor for the Pentagon and is now working as a defense contractor, claiming this person's worked with these materials, and we're seeing administration leaking UFO footage that they have said that they cannot classify what it is. They have no clue. Matt, are we going to be invaded by little green men here in 2020? Is that how we're going to cap off this year of 2020?
Hope so. If that's how it's going to go, I'm in. If aliens exist and they're coming to our planet in 2020, great. Better this year than next.
Can I be honest? I hope that the aliens come, look at us from afar, and realize how much of a mess 2020 is, and think that that's what normally we're like, and so they just decide to leave.
Yeah. We can't harvest these resources. They're wearing masks. It must be toxic. Let's get out of here.
Exactly.
This is awesome. I love it. New York Times. I'm all about aliens, man. I'm not out looking for UFOs, but dude, there's life out there for sure.
Honestly, I would not have even brought this up if it wasn't the fact that the New York Times is the one reporting this. Because
awesome.
An Inquirer reports this, okay, I'm not even looking at it. But this is the New York Times. They're a very reputable paper.
I think it's great.
Anyway.
Well, I'm out of Rebel Intelligence, my man.
Oh, okay. Then I've got one more.
Oh.
And once again, this is weird. It's I don't know, how do I want to put this? It's kind of pie in the sky. It's kind of leak territory. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe what if rumors?
Okay.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's been some rumors going around recently. I think we talked about it on the show. If not, I think you and I have talked about it, that there's rumors that Kathleen Kennedy's coming under a lot of fire.
Right.
There's rumors that Jon Favreau and her have been fighting. One of the latest rumors I've heard is that Disney wants to let Kathleen Kennedy go and bring George Lucas back into the mix to helm the Lucasfilm division and put Star Wars back on track. I've heard crazy rumors that they're going to reboot the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And this last rumor that I've heard, so there's a whole bunch of rumors going on, so I don't really know what to believe, although this one has a little more credence, I think, to it than some of the others. It is rumored right now, and is two two sources that are fairly well known for breaking Star Wars news are saying that Donald Glover is going to reprise his role as Lando Calrissian that he had for the Solo a Star Wars story for a Disney Plus series.
The wording here is extremely important in my opinion, because I have heard this reported in a lot of different ways.
Uh-huh.
And my first instinct when I read this was, we are getting a Lando Calrissian Disney Plus series.
Right.
And in most places, I think that's the assumption. However, the tweet that's getting kind of the press about this says, we can finally announce that Donald Glover will be reprising his role as Lando in a future Star Wars series. Not necessarily a Lando Calrissian series.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways that this can go.
Well, and the other thing, too, is they're saying that Billy D. Williams is
I've
also
heard that.
heavily rumored to come back. So I look at that and I say, okay.
I don't know how that works.
Well, if they do a Lando Calrissian series on Disney Plus and they have Billy D. Williams as the framing device, so he's telling stories of when he was younger.
Okay.
Then they could go back and they could have Donald Glover, portraying the younger Lando Calrissian for the majority of the episode, and just have Billy D. Williams, as the bookend, right, and as the framing device.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
That would.
Also, it would mean you definitely would be telling some sort of Lando Calrissian series.
Yep.
Or they may call it something. They may call it Smugglers or Rogues or something.
Right.
But what's interesting, though, about this idea is that Lando Calrissian, in the original Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi, he was kind of a somewhat reformed scoundrel, we'll say. But during Solo a Star Wars story, he most definitely was a scoundrel. And he was also like, they show that scene where he's kind of sitting there and he's like telling these stories and whatnot. They may be true. They may be partially true, or they could be completely made up.
Right.
So it could be some sort of really interesting way of saying, like, they can go back, they can tell stories that happened in the past, and it may fit into canon, and then they may be accurate, or they could be somewhat embellished and given that old Lando Calrissian charm.
Yeah, I like that idea. There's so many cool ways they could take a show during the setting where a Donald Glover could play Lando.
Right.
Because then we're in the territory of what I think people like me have been asking for, which is Solo 2. Like, there's so many more stories to be told.
Right.
And I think this could be one of the ways that they answer that. This is where you tie in things like the Crimson Dawn, Jabba the Hutt, Darth Maul, Han Solo, Chewbacca. I mean, there's ways you can tell story and get all these characters involved that would be really exciting, and that would cause a massive amount of excitement at Disney Plus, I think.
Donald Glover was the best part of that film. Hands down for me. The best part of that film.
Well, Donald Glover's the best part of anything he's ever been in and touched. I love that man.
That's true, but I mean, when I looked at Donald Glover, I thought, ooh, Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
I looked at, what's his name? Erlen Brockton, whatever.
Yeah, his name's hard.
And I was like, yeah. But for some reason, Donald Glover he was a young Billy D. Williams. Like, he just had that swagger. He chewed up this scenery. So, anyway,
Exciting.
Really, really, really... of all the Star Wars crazy rumors, this is the only one that I actually will give some credence to. I don't know if George Lucas is coming back in. I don't know if Kathleen Kennedy's on the way out. I don't know if they're going to reboot the sequel trilogy. All that stuff sounds kind of, crazy
Wild.
pants. But this sounds legit.
Yeah, it does sound legit, and I think that it sounds legit because of the love Solo gets now that it's been out for a while, and people don't have to be pissed about The Last Jedi anymore, and they can take Solo and put it in a box and just say, Solo was a good movie.
Yep.
These are characters we love and we care about. It was well written, well shot, and there's so many cool stories to be told. And they opened some really, really interesting doors, which no Star Wars movie for me has done since the Disney era.
Rogue One.
No, I mean, but that didn't open up new stories to be told. Like, this one excited me and opened me to, wow, like, my mind expanded upon Darth Maul and the Crimson Dawn and what really is going on Tatooine, like that kind of stuff. So, I think it's awesome. But I love Rogue One. Do not get me wrong. Rogue One is fantastic.
Rogue One's so good.
The standalones are the best of the... Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. All right, so, Matt, that's all I had for Rebel Intelligence.
Yeah.
Last week, we talked about The Last of Us 2. We had a spoiler cast. And we asked the Super Friends on a 1 to 10 scale, rate what you thought of The Last of Us 2. And I was really curious to see how this shook out because, you know, a lot of Super Friends we know are gamers, and so they're going to be playing this game. It's a big game. I was like, okay, let's see from some people that we know, some of the Super Friends, how they really honestly felt. So we're going to start over on email, like we always do, fordofnerd@gmail.com. And we have Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, that Lego Nintendo Classic looks redonkulous. Also the grand piano, but I won't be buying either. Spencer, if Lin-Manuel Miranda replies to your tweet, not only do I believe you'll mention it, I doubt you'll ever stop mentioning it. That's true. That's true. I think the favorite Hamilton songs had less overlap than any other questions of the week. I actually think that's really true too. Yeah. I went back and I was re-looking at those, and there literally was not a lot of overlap, which I think is really awesome to see how diverse the soundtrack is and like how songs can hit people in a different way. Anyway, I really like that. Peter says, I was ready to skip the main part of the episode when I saw it was video games, but your disclaimer about the story brought me back in. Last of Us 2 sounds like a really deep and interesting game. I still doubt I'll ever take up gaming because I already have a bunch of hobbies I'll never get to, but this game's story sounded very intriguing. Cheers, Peter Christensen.
Nice. Thanks for listening, Peter.
I appreciate that, and that is one of the things I will just go back real quick and say, Naughty Dog tells amazing stories. They know how to write a narrative that there's a reason why we're going to get a Nathan Drake movie. And I've said we need an Uncharted Nathan Drake movie for a long time. And I know a lot of fans have, even though I kind of know the whole the old video game to movie adaptation hasn't had some of the best adaptations in the past. This one, because of the way Naughty Dog write it, I mean, it just screams, I'm a movie. This is already a screenplay. So I'll be excited to see what happens. And then, of course, there is talks that The Last of Us could become a series on HBO. We've talked about that in the past as well.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, amazing, amazing storytelling. But let's jump over to Facebook, facebook.com/FordofNerd. We've got Tim Paulin. He says a 9 out of 10. It's a brutal yet beautiful revenge story. Not as good as part 1, which he gave a 9.5 out of 10. Still, Naughty Dog hit it out of the park. And there's a lesson here. Let it go, let it go. Okay.
Oh, dear.
I added this second let it go because I understood where he was going with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Let's jump over to Twitter @FordofNerd. Okay, that's where you can find us. Let's start with Bernabe Butters @Dantes_Belmont. He says 10. Mr. Pastor Lucas Ham
just 10.
At MTTG Brazil team. Yeah, Bernabe just said 10.
I like it.
Lucas Ham at MTTG Brazil team says 9.5 out of 10. Just like my newest podcasting buddy that likes to harass Musique829, which is Mark Boucher, just as much as I do. So Lucas is agreeing with me, 9.5. And then Patrick Novacell, Hollywood Bones @Nova Beyond says does 3.4 seem low? And of course I said, hey man, if that's how you feel about the game. And then he basically said, nah, I'm just basically playing and poking fun at the Metacritic score.
Yeah.
This game is a 10 out of 10 in my book.
Yeah.
Splig at Dobelicious says 10. Technical masterpiece. They told their story. Agree or disagree, you cared. Not many pieces of art / entertainment can bring out such passion. I do agree. It was a technical masterpiece, but I do like that they told their story the way they wanted to. Eric Green at The Art of Bacon says, I have to say 8. The gameplay is solid, pretty, and the story is great. But ultimately for me, it overstayed its welcome. I could go on, but spoilers would ensue. I think I know what he means by that. I won't go into that because we did spoil last week, and I don't want to have to put a spoiler tag on this episode.
I do agree. It went on too long.
Nick at TX3 Productions says 8 to 9. Can't decide. It's not horrible, but not perfect, but certainly not mediocre. So between 8 to 9,
okay.
We can call that 8.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then John at Sir John 11 says 8 out of 10. So far on Twitter and Facebook, I'm seeing a lot of high scores here.
Yeah.
Let's go over to Instagram for our last one. I've got Dante's _ Belmont says, 1 comment wasn't enough. This is a 10 game. I love from start to finish, and apparently I was the only one excited to play the second half of the game. I see this game not only as a revenge story, but also what it brings. I love that it also has redemption in there and heartbreak. At one point I was screaming at the TV, don't do it. Don't go. You have everything.
Yeah.
I love that, he wants to follow up his just 10 comment with then an explanation.
Awesome.
And he switched between, Twitter to go over to Instagram. I thought that was funny too. So, Matt, I think we can honestly say that it seems like you and I rated it real highly. That from the responses we got from the Super Friends, it seems like it's a fairly highly rated game.
Right.
Now, of course, for statistic purposes and whatnot, our sample size is probably smaller than what you realistically need. But I'm going to say with the Super Friends, it seems to be doing very, very, very well. The Metacritic review bombing that took place, probably not real people or not real Super Friends.
Right.
Well, Matt, that's all we've got there. Super Friends are helping us out. They're coming in and out every week for us. How can they help us this week? What can they do?
Well, this week, in addition to putting us on as you take a bath and listening to our sultry voices as you fall asleep, what you can do for us this week is moisturize, lotion. We know you're hand sanitizing, you're washing your hands constantly. Moisturize those cracking hands. Get yourself some real deep, extra kind of, what do they call it? I don't know. Extra moisturizing lotions to keep your skin nice and healthy on your hands.
Are you planning on throwing the Super Friends into a pit and lowering this moisturizer down to them?
If I have to.
Oh my goodness, Matt. You make me nervous.
I just want them to have healthy, not cracking, bloody hands. All right? I'm here to provide a service, and this week that service is to remind them to moisturize.
Okay. We're all Silence of the Lambs up in here this week. Okay, Matt. This was interesting. Okay, so every year we cover San Diego Comic-Con. It is like the mecca for nerd and pop culture. This year's different, though. Because of the whole COVID-19, San Diego Comic-Con decided to continue and go on, but they weren't going to do it in person. They were going to do it remote with Skype and Zoom and pushing stuff directly over to YouTube. And I was gone over the weekend. And so I was like, oh man, I'm really excited. Let me start catching up on stuff.
Joke's on you.
Can I just tell you that I feel that obviously we knew that this was going to be a different experience, right?
Right, of course, yes.
But I feel like the magic that makes Comic-Con so exciting was really missing. And what that is it's the audience. It's the people that show up, right? So when you have a big panel that's in Hall H, actors and directors and people show up, people from whatever fandom, right? Whether it's a Marvel panel or a DC panel or a Supernatural panel or a Firefly, type of deal, right? There's a feeling and excitement in the air, and fans get to get up and ask questions, and there's spontaneity that can happen, and there's just goofy, silly things that can just kind of like spring up out of nowhere. But this year, everything that was taped, since it was pre-recorded, there was no fan interaction, comments were turned off on YouTube videos, there was no real interaction. Yeah. Everything to me felt very hollow and very just kind of lifeless. Does that ring true for you? Was that kind of your experience with it?
Yeah, look, Comic-Con is awesome. There's so many cool things that happen. Every year, without fail, at least something interesting is going to happen. And I remember last year we had a great show filled to the brim with all of this awesome stuff that was announced. And we get to talk about all these trailers and all this cool stuff. And it was a massive letdown and probably a colossal failure from my perspective. And there are a couple of reasons why, in my opinion. One of them is I didn't even know it was happening this weekend.
Yeah.
There was no marketing. There was no information. Nothing was promoted. And I frequent websites, obviously, because of my interests that are gaming, TV, right, movie focused. I frequent those, and I had no idea it was happening until it started happening.
Yep.
So that to me is a huge failure on their part. And the second thing is I agree, without the audience and the participation and feeling like, that you're on the edge of your seat, whether you're there or not there, that's missing. It was totally missing.
Yeah.
And so, it definitely felt hollow. And I think the idea of having this remote was to me at least interesting and exciting, because I wanted to see what was going to happen and what kind of announcements they would make still, even though I'm not there. I mean, I'm never there. Right. So I was still interested in seeing what's going to happen. And boy.
Yeah.
Yikes. I just got to say yikes.
I'm like you. I've never gone. I want to, but I've never gone. So I'm used to watching all these panels on YouTube. But usually they have everyone there and they're gathered and they've got the audience. And I think that if they would have done something where they would have had, I don't know, maybe a day before you could submit, questions, and then they would, have some sort of moderator and read those questions, that could have at least felt a little bit more authentic. Yeah. They could have had comments enabled or something. I feel like there's other ways they could have tried to work on the interactivity portion a bit. But unfortunately, a lot of the stuff was just shot ahead of time, edited together, and then just put on YouTube. And, that's not what Comic-Con is, right? Obviously, there's no artists that are going to have Artist Alley. There's no vendors that are going to be there. You're not going to see people in cosplays, all the typical con type of, accoutrements. They're not going to be there.
Right.
Not at all.
Yep.
You're not going to have the guy that's selling the unlimited drink refill thing for $25 or whatever. You're not going to have any of that. There's no food, whatever. But also, because of the way they were doing it this year, there's some big names that pulled out. Marvel wasn't going to be doing any big announcements this year, which I think you and I understand everything's being delayed, so you know, why put together the effort to say like, hey, here's little things that we can't really talk about because we're not ready.
Right.
DC decided not to do anything because they've got some DC Dome Con, something that's going to be showing up in another month online.
Right.
So as far as like big comic people and big movie people based on comic properties, the two biggest weren't there. You know, we're not getting anything Marvel, Disney, Star Wars. So it just felt like there was a hole. But I thought it would be at least interesting if we could talk about a couple things that we did see that happened that we thought were noteworthy, maybe that we could talk about.
Yeah.
So I think I might have one or two more than you, so I think I'll start and we can just alternate and
on.
Let me know when you're out. The first thing that I saw that I thought looked really, really good was the Bill and Ted's panel that they did. They did try to do a few other things. They did try to do some like breaks and like they would when they would normally show a trailer, which they did. They showed the trailer, a full trailer, like the second trailer for Bill and Ted Face the Music. And I watched it, and yes, it's Bill and Ted in their, I don't know, mid-40s, maybe early 50s at this point. But it just looks like it's going to be fun. I don't know if this movie is more of a nostalgia trip, which I think it is, or of a kind of the, hey, we're going to have this, and we're also going to have our kids involved as a way to try to like pass the baton off and continue this sort of a franchise with the new generation. I kind of hope it's not, because the movies were called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Bill and Ted Face the Music. If then they go to the kids, what are they going to call it? You know, Leslie and Tina Go Back in Time. You know, like it's not going to have name recognition. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the trailer or not, but I'm pretty excited to see this. I mean, this nostalgia probably more than anything.
Yeah.
But it just looked goofy and it looked fun.
This was made for you.
Yeah, yes it was.
I mean, you probably couldn't watch a trailer of Bill and Ted and be disappointed. You would be excited no matter what. Yeah. For me, this just looks super blah. Like, I would definitely not go to a theater to see this movie. There's no chance. I've seen the others and they were fine, but it's not like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, I think I saw that first one when I was like 9 or 10, probably, I don't know, a couple hundred times. Yeah. What is interesting, though, is that they did say that this movie is going to release September 1st in theaters and simultaneously releasing on demand. So they understand that some places may be able to have a theatrical opening, but then they're also going to do the VOD. And I think that's smart. I think that's a great way to play this because there's not a lot of content coming out, Matt. And if someone says, hey, look, we can let you watch this from home.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else coming out and you're not going to the movie theater. This may not be up your alley, but you might plop down $20 in order to rent it and watch it and see something new.
Yeah, agreed. Smart move. Absolutely. Yeah. With everything being removed, with Tenet being gone, and now Mulan being gone, there's literally no movies that anyone cares about except for this one. So maybe, you know, this is its time to shine. And hey, September 1st is still a month away.
Yep.
I mean, we don't know what things, you don't even know what it's going to look like tomorrow. This world we live in is so freaking nuts.
According to the New York Times, aliens, Matt. Yeah. Aliens.
Why not? It could get 1,000 times worse tomorrow, or it could just all be fixed. I don't know, which is why I don't sleep at night anymore. Anyway, that's beyond this.
Yeah, Bill and Ted's Face the Music I thought was a bright spot and worth mentioning.
Yeah, totally cool.
Where it's still moving forward. We got a full trailer. They did some sort of a panel that felt probably the best of the panels as far as trying to like break things up and try to make it feel authentic.
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited about this still, and it did its job.
Awesome. I like that it is a fun, silly movie that's coming out. I probably will. I mean, I will watch this movie at some point. I don't know when, but we will definitely go out and watch it.
Keanu.
I love him. So here is something that I found interesting, and this is because I didn't know it was happening, but apparently it is. A live-action Mega Man movie is still in development. And that still made me think, oh, it's been in development. Everybody knows this except for me. But what kind of surprised me was the live action part of this. A live action Mega Man movie. Now, I'm sure many of the super friends have either played or seen or know about Mega Man.
Oh yeah.
And he's basically a little robot boy with a little robot dog that runs around and blasts things with his arms. It's like a little kid version of Samus. And
kinda.
I am very interested to see how they make this into a live action movie. Now, the most recent live action movie that we've seen, like a cartoon be made into live action from a video game, is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Bingo.
And I will say that for me, they were very successful. I watched that on the airplane. I don't know if we talked about this.
I don't know
if we mentioned this. I watched it on the airplane. I freaking loved it, as I predicted like a year ago when we were talking about this movie being announced.
Yeah.
It was great. I thought it was so fun. I can't wait. I'm glad there's a second one. And
I'm pretty sure I'm on the record on the podcast prior to its release saying I thought it's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
It was.
You are on the record.
and then I took my kids to go see it, and I was like, this was better than I expected. And we own the movie, and we watched it when we were in West Yellowstone. We watched the movie every night in our hotel with the kids, and it was one of the movies the kids wanted to see. And Brita hadn't seen it, and she watched it, and she went, "This is better than I thought it was gonna be." I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
And like they incorporated a lot of like little things from the game, but the game, you speed around,
you run around,
you run around and you fight Dr. Robotnik. Mega Man, I was like, yeah, you just kind of run around, you shoot things, and you fight the bad guy, which I can't at this point remember because I think the last Mega Man game I played was Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. I think I stopped there, and I think they're on like 10 or 11 or whatever.
Yeah, they're way out there now.
But those games were brutally hard back in the NES. Like Mega Man 2 is brutally hard. Like you had to know patterns and muscle memory. Like there's no save points. And anyway, so I would love to say that I think this is a bad idea, but just, rewatching Sonic, I think that they, depending on who's doing it, I think there's a way that the Mega Man movie, Matt, could be a watchable movie.
Yeah, I really am hoping it's watchable. I am. I'm not even like a big Mega Man fan. In fact, I would say this. I'm not a Mega Man fan.
Have you ever played any of the games?
Yeah, super, super hard. I just threw my controller on the ground and walked away. So they were not my favorite. But I'm excited about it. And they did hint, that's not the only news. I mean, the news was that they hinted, the directors, that quote, something big is coming soon. So I think we're going to get more information, announcements, casting. I don't know what that information is going to be, but it's supposed to be big news. So yay for video games being made into movies. Hopefully they're as good as the Super Mario Brothers movie from the 90s.
Was the bad guy Dr. Willy?
Yes.
Okay, because I remember they had like all these like different like, robots you had to fight, but like, yeah, Dr. Willy's kind of the bad guy, right? They like, I don't know, he turns bad or something. Anyway, can we just get Jim Carrey to play Dr. Willy?
Look, I'm pretty sure that they just ripped off Dr. Willy from Eggman / Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, probably.
They're the same one with different color hair. One's got white hair and the other one's got orange hair.
Okay, so now, Matt, because I just have to I have to know which one came first, Mega Man or... Well, yeah, Sonic, though, with Dr. Robotnik had to have come later, right?
I don't know.
Okay, Mega Man released December 17th, 1987.
Oh, boy.
So when did Sonic the Hedgehog release? I'm going to say like 91, maybe? Oh, it's Sonic the Hedgehog, 1991.
Yeah.
So Mega Man came out a good 4 years prior, three to 4 years prior, depending.
So they copied Dr. Robotnik. Or they copied Dr. Willy into Robotnik.
You know, I know, a little side
They made a
note,
better, more fun, more accessible game. That's all I know.
I've got the old Nintendo Switch Online. I'm gonna take a look and see if any of the original Mega Man games were on there. Maybe I'll give that a try again, because I remember them. I played them. I remember loving them as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember them being really hard, though.
Yeah, super hard.
So, anyway,
there you go, Mega Man.
Hey, yeah, Mega Man. All right, I'm going to go to something that's... I'm definitely on record saying that this is a dumb idea, that this would never happen.
Awesome.
And then
I know what you're going to say.
mountains have been moved and it's happening, and I feel like, I got to eat crow here. But Zack Snyder's Justice League got a tease this weekend during Comic-Con, even though Zack Snyder was not at Comic-Con and DC was not at Comic-Con. Apparently there was some... I don't know. There was some chat with some pop culture bloggers, the Nerd Queens, with Snyder this weekend during all this, and they were talking about the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and he dropped a very tiny look at what Henry Cavill as Superman looked like in his black Superman suit. Originally, in Justice League, I don't know if it was supposed to be the entire time or if it was going to be for a portion of the time, because Zack Snyder thought the evolution of switching Superman from the red, the blue, and the yellow to a black and kind of gray suit made more sense. That he showed off this little detail that they went back and they used color correction technology, because they didn't film him in a black suit. But they used the color correction technology to turn it black.
Oh.
And I've seen it, and I look at this, and I look at it, and I go, okay. I understand that Justice League has some issues, and some continuity, and some tone issues, because of the way that things worked out with Zack Snyder leaving before things were done, and then bringing in Joss. Okay, right? Like, we know all this. However, to see that they're, color correcting the suit to get it this way, and that they're going to go back into the full IMAX format that Zack Snyder wanted the original film to be, because it kind of got choppy, where like if you went to see it in IMAX, certain scenes were in IMAX, other scenes were just kind of regular.
Yeah.
And so he was just kind of talking about this and saying that, it may be called Zack Snyder's Justice League, depending if legal can get that to go through. It's going to go back into full IMAX. There's going to be this black suited Superman. It's worth bringing up because it's something to talk about, and it's from DC, and they really weren't there, and this kind of happened during the same time. But I just look at this, Matt, and I say, is this going to be something that's just going to get tinkered with, and then they're going to release it, and then after that's going to be released, then it's going to be like, well, but Zack Snyder really wanted to do this, so now he's tinkering with it again, and we've got Justice League. We have maybe Zack Snyder's Justice League. Then we have like Zack Snyder's Ultimate Director's Cut Justice League. Like, like, are we going to be getting to the point where it's Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut? The same thing with Blade Runner. I mean, just, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what to even feel about this thing anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you on, I don't know. And I don't have a affinity towards or a tie to Superman, so the color of his suit I don't really care. I kind of think it's cool. But I tend to think all black things are cool. Like, dang, like, look at that all black, whatever. That's cool looking because it's just all black. So all black Batman is cool. So why can't all black Superman be cool?
Matt, you were born too late, man. You really should have been born a decade earlier so you really could have appreciated the 90s when everything was black and dark.
Anyway, what I thought was interesting from the information that I got from this interview and talking with Zack Snyder was not only the black suited Superman, but also the fact that he said that he will not use a single frame of anything that Joss Whedon touched.
Yeah.
So there will be absolutely no traces of what Joss Whedon did. Any reshooting or continuation of shooting, that's it. There will be none of it. So now we will know for sure, very clearly and very evidently, when comparing the movies, who shot what exactly.
I can almost tell that watching just the original Justice League. Because the tone shift for me, like I could tell, like, oh, this is a Joss Whedon scene. Easily.
Yeah.
So
I don't know him well enough or Zack Snyder well enough because I'm not super big fans of either of them.
Right.
So this will be interesting for me because, look, I watched the Justice League and I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine.
I bet you a lot of the things you liked about it are Joss Whedon stuff.
Almost guaranteed if it has anything to do with the only funny character in the entire freaking movie.
Yep.
If it has anything to do with the scenes with whatever, his name is Flash guy.
Yep.
We're going to be in trouble. You get rid of those funny scenes and I'm going to hate it. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I am excited for it. I will sign up for the 7-day free trial when it comes out. And I'm not going to get it before then because I don't care enough about anything else HBO Max is doing for me. But it's definitely interesting. It's a good talking point.
Yep. I think it'll be interesting. I'm going to have to watch it because I feel like, with how much it's been back and forth in pop culture and it's happening, it's not happening, it doesn't exist, it exists, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to see this thing and I want to see it. I have a problem though, because I think I'm going to be going in with a biased opinion to go see it. And I'm going to have to try to find a way to like let all that go and just go in and try to appreciate it for what it is and then compare it to things.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, release the JJ cut. All right, so moving on, we've got, I've got something interesting. I always think these things are interesting, how movies are made. And there was a Comic-Con at-home directors on directing panel with Colin Trevorrow, who was there, who is directing the next Jurassic World film.
Yeah.
Dominion.
He did the last one, didn't he?
I think he did.
Yeah.
So he has said now that they have made more animatronics for this movie than they have in any of the previous two films.
Okay.
And he goes on to kind of talk about, says the thing that I found, especially in working in the last couple of months, is that we finally reached a point where digital extensions on animatronics will be able to match the texture and level of fidelity that on film an animatronic is going to be able to bring. So what it appears to me is they're like partial animatronics that they are going to be able to digitally enhance that will be able to match the look of an animatronic, if that makes sense. I think that's what he's trying to say here is the ability for us visually to see kind of, when you're looking at CG and when you're looking at an animatronic. And the animatronic, regardless of, I don't know, when I watch Star Wars, for example, with the heavy use of animatronic, I just enjoy it more, or practical effect.
Yeah.
I feel more immersed in the story. And I think what Colin Trevorrow is trying to do and to illustrate in the technology he's trying to utilize is this ability to use practical effects to enhance those practical effects digitally to make it feel like you're watching an animatronic without having to build an entire fully functioning animatronic.
Okay.
That's a lot of saying animatronic, but I believe that that's what he's getting at there was the digital enhancements that are going to be able to make it feel seamless, that you can't tell it's puppetry or it's an animatronic, or that it's not that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So this is exciting for me. I'm a Jurassic fan. Jurassic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like them all. I don't care. Get me with dinosaurs. We've talked about this. I don't care if it's the same movie 5 times in a row. I just want to see Chris Pratt in action. And this is super exciting. I love it. I always feel better when people say they're embracing animatronic or they're embracing practical.
Yep. I love practical effects. I really do. I was listening this was years ago. I was listening to the commentary on the Ghostbusters DVD, and they were talking about the scene in the library where all the cards start, just coming out of the card catalogs by themselves, just, flipping up. And they said that was a very simple, low-tech practical effect, that they had these cards loaded up, and then they just had a tube behind it that was going into them, and they were blowing air. And then the air was just kicking the cards up. And they said it was a really easy way, they didn't have to do wires or strings or fishing line to try to, jerk them out. And then, today you could do that with CG. They said it was easy. All we had to do was, drill a hole through the back of the thing, insert a rod, hook up some air, pressurized air, boom, and the cards go up. And I remember thinking, wow, it's such a low-tech way of doing that, but you really, really, really can get some amazing effects done with, low-tech, real-world type of things. And I like the practical effects. I would, if there was a show, that's part of the reason I think I watched a lot of Mythbusters back in the day, because they would show some of the things they would try to do or bust some of the myths from movies. Yeah. But if they had some sort of show or some sort of behind the scenes with showing off all the way they do practical effects in the movies, and hey, here's the new Jurassic, World movie, and here's all the animatronics, and here's all the practical effects, and here's how we did that. It's like peeking behind the curtain and seeing the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. It's satisfying. You may be surprised by what you see, but it's satisfying, and I love that. So I would totally be down for something like that. I like the fact that a big budget Hollywood film is going to go more practical. Yep.
I love it. I'm in.
So cool. All right. Here's the last thing I thought was worth mentioning from San Diego Comic-Con that happened this last weekend. There was a clip from the show Star Trek Lower Decks. And this has been talked about for a while. It's an animated show about the crew that works, down in the bowels of the ship. They're not the captain and the first officer. They're not the bridge crew. These are those that work down doing the normal, engineering type of duties, the nobodies, if you will, that kind of help keep everything running. And they showed this first clip, and oh my gosh, it had me laughing so hard watching this. It's literally going to be, kind of like this irreverent comedy where, this guy, like the clip, the guy is, pretending like he's the captain and doing a captain's log and talking about all the things that they're going to do, this and that and the other. And then he basically says, but really that's not who we are. We don't make first contact with civilizations and, do all that. We make second contact. We're the guys that show up to make sure that the name of the planet is spelled correctly on the register. We're the one that makes sure, all the paperwork is signed. And then basically one of his coworkers breaks in and she's drunk on, Romulan whiskey that she's not even supposed to have. And and she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you making a captain's log? Are you pretending to be a captain in your time off? And it's just funny. And like the back and forth, and she's completely drunk, and she pulls out a Klingon batleth, and she's playing. He's like, the guy's like, stop playing. And then she accidentally stabs him in the leg, and they look at each other like, you gotta be kidding me, right? The humor in it's really good. It's got this kind of goofy charm about it. I think it's going to be fun because we're going to get to see something that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. If you know Star Trek, there's going to be lots of little references and in-jokes and Easter eggs. But at the same time, I think they're just going to tell some funny stories that can relate to like the everyman, every woman, type of ideal. And it's just happened to be set in kind of the Star Trek universe. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I'm really looking forward to this. I think this looks really actually interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea what this was until you started talking. And I went to Google and I just looked up some information. And I assumed when we kind of briefly mentioned some things we were going to talk about prior to the show, and I was like, okay, great. It's Star Trek cartoons, probably like a Nickelodeon, Disney, like kids thing.
Yeah,
but
no.
It's not. It looks like just from the style, the art style, and you can just kind of tell immediately that this is more of like, this is an adult cartoon. Not adult in the way that like there's going to be
right, yes,
F words and sex, but like the humor is it's meant to be watched by people with a more nuanced appreciation for animation and comedy and stuff. So, this is the first Star Trek thing I've ever been interested in since the Star Trek movies with J.J. Abrams. Those ones were pretty good. I liked those movies. So, hey, CBS, man, they're really going at it with Star Trek. I think this is what I wanted Disney Plus to be doing with Star Wars, and I feel like they haven't lived up to my expectations. We've only gotten The Mandalorian and then a seventh season of a show that I didn't watch.
I also think though CBS All Access has been around longer.
It has, that's true.
So they've had more of a runway on this. Like, give it, CBS All Access has probably been around for 5-ish years now total. So I mean, like, let's talk about Disney Plus when it's been around for 5 years and go back and be like, right, here's all the things they've done. I think that will be different down the road. But I agree, like in its first year,
Marvel.
We knew there was gonna be no Marvel in the first year. We knew that we were gonna get the Mandalorian. Like, we knew some things were gonna be a little light, and then this pandemic hit, and it's pushed everything even further back. So anyway. That was the last thing I had. Did you have anything else?
No, I'm out.
So I think it's worth noting that like we picked a few things that we found interesting that we saw, and I know there's probably other stuff that other people might have found interesting, but for me, I did kind of feel like this year Comic-Con, because of all the things going in, just kind of felt flat. There was no real big, super exciting, shocking announcements or trailers.
Yep.
Nothing to really wow. I mean, that's usually what I look forward to. It's like, oh man, they just showed an Infinity War trailer at Comic-Con. And if you weren't there, you didn't see it unless someone's bootlegged it and recorded it on their phone. And, because that happened. Right. And, it was big to do. This year, not everyone showed up as far as, the normal players in the industry. No fans, no, panels in the traditional sense, no interaction, no artwork, no vendors, like no cosplay, just like all the things that make it this. I think that this was a really good attempt at trying to keep something going and having some sort of an event. I am going to say that. But I definitely feel like if they do some sort of online event, like if we're still in this pandemic mode a year from now, I hope that they learn some lessons and try to find a different way to present it.
Yeah. So. It was terrible. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it was a bit
really bad.
It was a bit of a letdown.
Executed.
For sure. Super Friends, here's the deal though. I want to ask you, because, like I said, I haven't watched everything. I did kind of go through and peruse it because I was gone this weekend on vacation. Because like Matt said, I totally forgot Comic-Con was happening this weekend because it wasn't going to be anywhere near like it normally is. So I want you to tell us, what were the things that stood out from this year's Comic-Con to you? Or what are you interested in that maybe was shown at Comic-Con or talked about Comic-Con? Something that we can go look at a little bit more and, maybe try to, something we could be excited about. And hit us up at all the normal places. You can send us an email, fortofnerd@gmail.com. You can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/fortofnerd. We're on Twitter @fortofnerd. We're on Instagram @fortofnerd. You can call our phone number, which is 801-477-7687. And you could leave us a voicemail. Heck, you could even come over into the Twitch stream at FortofNerd79 and twitch.tv/FortofNerd79. And you can even let me know there, although I'm probably going to have to stop what I'm doing to take notes so I can have it. So probably one of the other social medias would be better. But if you do show up at Twitch, hey, we can talk about it there as well. And we'll talk about those answers next week. Matt, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be sitting in my chair that doesn't hurt my hips and to be with you. Once again, we're getting closer to episode 200.
Right on.
We're only like 8 episodes away now, almost 7.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to start making plans for the old 200 episode.
Nice.
Well, super friends, we're gonna get out of here for tonight and for today, or for whatever day you're listening to this. So from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there wherever you may be, may the Force be with you always.